Hello, everybody. Welcome. I am sitting in a new position today because the position here is in the sun. If you've been hanging out with me for any amount of time here in Ukraine, it is, I've been saying it's so dreary all the time now, and it's gray and cold, and it's cold as hell, but the sun has been shining now for a couple of days, and I swear to God, it has changed my life. How much I have missed the sun is mind blowing, quite frankly. I hadn't been in a place where the sun hasn't shined, like that old saying, like, go stick your head where the sun don't shine. Stick it in Ukraine and you'll be able to stick it somewhere at least a little bit nicer than what somebody's telling you to really do in that saying. But right now, like, I can't even tell you. I have missed we how much you take things for granted. So we lived in Texas where the sun always shines. I lived before that in California, Southern California. The sun's always shining. We spent the last 5 months or not 5 months, last 5 months, but earlier this year, 5 months in the Riviera of the Mayan Riviera of Mexico. Sun's always shining. And then we come here and the sun's shining, and then we move into the winter season. And it was just like, what just happened? Like, what happened? So it's been a long, long time since I've been in a place where it's so deprived of sun. So I've spent, a minute now talking about the sun, but I'm just gonna be in the sun as it goes down because it goes down quickly here, and I'm just gonna soak it all in, and hopefully it comes in and beams out to all of you, and just allows this light to come in and shine for you. And then there's my husband. We just saw your shadow go across. That's funny. And if you can enjoy this beautiful 70s style sofa that we're living with right now, it's quite beautiful. As I say facetiously, but I'm grateful to be here. Grateful to have all of you on here. Welcome, everyone. So, Carol, you're here from Panama City Beach, where you get rainbows and sunshine quite a bit. London in the house. Hello, Kazembe. London's probably pretty gray too, so you might be used to this. Sun is my medicine. It really is. There's like a whole daily tune-in we could do about the sun and it being medicine and all the different medicines that are available to us. But that's a whole different day, and we've got a lot going on now to cover. Before I get started, I'm going to just let everyone else come in for a moment. I wanted to really give a big shout out to all of those who have sent me a coffee, so to speak, for a return in the investment of time for these daily tune-ins. And I want to make sure that I hear my voice give them thanks. I do through messaging, but let me get to my note here. La 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 for Mary and Brenna, Crystal, Trish. Someone's anonymously giving, which is like so mysterious. I love it. It drives me crazy. I'm like, who is it? But I appreciate the request for the anonymity. Tracy, Zoraida, and my friend Lori. Thank you so much, you all. I really, really appreciate this. I don't do this for the money, because if I did, I wouldn't be doing it. However, I do have a life, and I do have places to invest my money into. And anything that comes in, I really do appreciate it. And as I mentioned yesterday, I am saving up and look forward to having an actual studio eventually with actual equipment. And so it's not so rudimentary, but for now it works, and it's getting messages out. So thank you all so much for your generosity. I truly, truly appreciate it. So we've got Canada too in the house. Hello, Tarla. Thank you for joining us. So I'm going to get started today. I've got notes on my phone and I've got notes on my lap here, so I don't miss anything. But I really wanted to get into a little bit deeper from yesterday's message, where we were talking about things are going on behind the scenes. I'm going to, as I started to kind of put things into place in my journal to get things organized for today, I realized that there was a lot. And as I was getting the messages coming in and kind of going through my own training, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's just too much to put into one daily tune in, because I don't want to overwhelm you. And there's such good stuff to share that I decided to do this in 4 parts. So this whole week will be devoted to what's been going on behind the scenes. in taking care of us. And we've all heard or have maybe seen memes on Instagram or wherever that the light has won. And that is the truth. We know from a spiritual essence that the light always does win. The light means knowledge. The light is wisdom. It's the truth. It is the divine truth, and that will always win when faced with darkness. The darkness being whatever it is. And that sounds like a really cool ethereal idea. The light has won. What does that really mean in practical terms? So I want to kind of take this idea, because it is very much a high level perspective, a high level spiritual perspective. And yes, there's still some of that may be a little bit out of grasp. But when you hear some of what we're going to talk about throughout this week, I want you to tune into it from that higher level perspective, from your soul perspective. So even if your mind isn't quite ready to grasp it or to understand it, check in on that soul level and see if it resonates with you. And if it does, then you know it's resonating with the truth within, the part of you that's connected into that higher level overall perspective. And that higher level overall perspective is plugged into the source consciousness that has created everything that we have been living through. So although it feels very dark at times and very manipulated at times, all of it is in a unified consciousness. All of it is for our highest good. And I'm going to show you how these last couple of years throughout this week, I'm going to show you how the events of these last couple of years, although they've been hard and difficult, were actually co-created in light and dark for in our favor. I know it's hard to put into those words and be like, oh yeah, I see that. And you might see little things. And a lot of people are like, man, if it wasn't for the events of 2020, I wouldn't have done this. I can say that in my own life. If the events of 2020 hadn't happened, I wouldn't be sitting here on this beautiful 70s style couch in this beam of sunlight right now. Everything would have been completely different, and I probably still would have been living the life that I was in Austin, Texas, and, kind of battling through a pretty good life, but not feeling fully fulfilled. So I'm going to really break this down, and I ask for your patience of it taking 4 days, but I think it's really, really divinely guided to just kind of do it in chunks so you can allow it to sink in and process about what a change it has brought for us collectively and individually. So today I wanted to just really sit here and not sit here, but I wanted the overall message is the light has won. Okay, that's the big perspective. And what I'm going to do is as we're going through these messages throughout these next couple of days, I want you to remember that this message goes for you as the microcosm. Like the microcosm subject is, how does this all pertain to you? And then you can expand the same information out, the same light out to the macrocosm, the collective, like all of humanity and what we're seeing in the outside world. So what happens to us in consciousness happens to the collective, because remember, reality is a projection of our consciousness. And globally, it is the sum total, so to speak, the sum average of all of the consciousness of humanity projected out. So we can see how low in frequency humanity has gotten over the course of millennia to this time point in time, so to speak, in our life. I'm going to just scoot over a little bit because that one little thing is putting a shadow on my face. We can see that over time we have kind of gotten lower and lower in our frequency, because we can now see the darkness and the manipulation and deception that has been creating this global thing that has encompassed our entire world and brought us all together in this global event. And yet we can also bring that back to say, how have I aided in seeing that, projecting that out? It's a really humbling place to get to, but one that we have to get to. And yet I'm going to kind of try to define that a little bit today. And then in a day or two, we'll also go even deeper into these codes that we have adopted into our genetics through all of the manipulation and deception that has been coded in us. And these codes are called enslavement codes. Enslavement codes are already within us. They are genetic. So if our parents came into carnation with these codes within them, and then those codes were activated in their life, then by most likely they're going to then pass those genetics and those codes on to us when we came into the world. What does that look like? Remember, I was talking about the puzzle pieces yesterday. The puzzle pieces are now kind of all forming into place, and we're kind of seeing a picture we didn't really want to see. That was in the global perspective. But in our lives, we also have these puzzles that are coming together. Over the last couple of years, we've been able to really notice these puzzles that are us and saying, like, wow, there's this, and I've done it in my own life. I'm like, wow, I like this puzzle. I kind of like what the picture is of my life, but there are these corrupted pieces here and there. And these corrupted pieces were all parts of me that were fragmented from the beautiful picture, the beautiful puzzle that was supposed to be created from my divine blueprint. But along the way, I brought in genetically some of these corrupted files, corrupted pieces of the puzzle, and I also brought some in myself. Those corrupted pieces were, I grew up in a. I'm going to just give you my experience so you can kind of put it together in what that might look like for you. Sorry, now all of a sudden the sun's moving to the beam in the window. I grew up in outside of Philadelphia in an Irish Catholic family. I was going to say pretty devout, and yet they weren't really devout. They were devout in going to church and playing the role of Catholics. But when they came home, this is the side of the family that I was mostly raised by, not the other side. The other side was a different, beautiful, gentle side. This side was very racist. They were judgmental. So playing the part out in the world and big members of the church, and then coming home, sitting at the table and just talking yucky stuff about the world and about the people of the world. And I grew up with hearing this and being the person that I was. I know that like I couldn't. It was not, and that didn't resonate. And the other thing that the alcohol would flow in the family, drama would erupt, fighting and bullying and yelling, and our family unit was really dysfunctional. So what I learned from that was just stay quiet. And I had a text conversation on Instagram with one of you guys who talked about the same thing. How we were taught just to be quiet. So instead of speaking up and saying, I don't like how you're talking, like what you're saying about a certain race or a certain other religion or whatever, I just stayed quiet. I didn't stick up for what I knew to be true, which that wasn't what they were saying wasn't true. So I took a corrupted piece of my own puzzle and laid it in the puzzle, but it didn't fit right. But that was my belief, is you just have to stay quiet, right? And then I was a pretty big into gymnastics, and as we know, many athletes are always like sticking their, always having to have the certain weight, and you got to wait. You got to get weigh in. You have to take your weight. And so over the course of the years, I started to learn, that I have to have a perfect weight. If I gain weight, I have to feel shame. So I started taking those corrupted files, pieces, and putting those in my puzzle, that I wasn't good enough if I got over a certain weight, I wasn't good enough, and I have to be ashamed of something. And then as I kept growing and started to express myself, got older and was like, I'm going to express myself, and then was shamed for expressing myself. Ooh, I better not express myself. I was told I was too sensitive for actually expressing myself. So I'm going to just put that corrupt file into my puzzle and take the one out that tells me my truth is that I am here to express myself, but I'm going to put that in there. I can't express myself. And then I went on, see how we do this. And then I went on to get married, and I had a very unhealthy, dysfunctional marriage, but I didn't see it for so long. I didn't see it because all of these corrupted files were telling me to just be quiet and just to be happy with what I had because everything looked good. And the more that I was shamed for not making enough money, the more I was shamed for, being a stay-at-home mom, the more I was shamed for starting a business that didn't produce enough money. All of these corrupted pieces were put into my puzzle, and by the end of it, a couple years ago, I looked down and I was like, this puzzle looks crazy. I kind of see what it's supposed to be, but there's so many corrupted puzzle pieces that it wasn't a functional puzzle anymore. So we all are working and have been working with these corrupted files of darkness. And when I talk about darkness, this is all of the beliefs and the habits and the behaviors and the thoughts and the words that aren't aligned with our truthful blueprint, our truthful full puzzle of what our soul picture is supposed to look like, what our soul life is supposed to look like. So we all in humanity had these corrupted puzzle pieces. And then we were projecting that out because we were going out into the world to function, and we were going to our jobs, and weren't something wasn't feeling right. So, but we stayed quiet because we had a corrupted file that we aren't good enough to speak up, that we are supposed to stay quiet. So we took that corruption into those corrupted files into the work. And some people bullied themselves and manipulated and used these deceptive puzzle pieces to get to the top, and it just kept working. So there was this artificial power that was created in their corrupt functionality. And then all of a sudden, corporations became corrupt, and then other people grew up and went into politics and was like, oh, somebody wants to give me more money just for voting this way. Okay, I want more money. Who doesn't want more money? Sure. And that corrupted file that went into their puzzle piece. And then somebody went into a religious organization and worked up the ranks and took their corrupted files in of, you're not good enough, until someone said, hey, you do this really well, let's give you extra money. And this is what we're going to ask you to do this in your organization. And sure, like now it starts that all of these corrupted files started to expand and multiply in our collective. And then all of a sudden we came to where we are now, where there is so much corruption, which is just genetically and self-induced corrupted files on a micro level that has just grown into the collective on a macro. Okay, something had to be done. And as our galactic friends, our angelic friends, as divine source creators started to look and say, holy heck, Earth has gotten way out of hand right now. We've got to do something, but we cannot go in and completely override free will. There is a universal law that we as humans have free will, and we have to make our choices for ourselves. So what can we do on a spiritual soul level for all of humanity that will push them into a higher level of consciousness where their free will can take over and start making different choices? That was the behind the scenes work that has been going on, and especially in the last year, couple of years. I'm going to go back to 2019 during this these 4 days, not today, but I'm going to go back and start kind of putting the puzzle pieces together from 2019 until now of what's been going on behind the scenes to help us reset consciously, so that we can now start reflecting. We've taken out these corrupted files from us through this high influx of light that we have been following and monitoring for the last couple of years. All of that photonic light from the galactic side of Earth and from the solar side of Earth, that's just been beaming us and throwing us into a healing space where we had no choice but to heal, because we had to start purging those corrupted files. So we were given so much light that pulled all of that out. And we've been doing that work and purging all of these corrupted files. And now, beautiful souls, we are to the point in consciousness where all of that is done. Okay. Even if you don't feel it, this is what this message is about. It is done. It is already done. The light has done its job on clearing you. And anything that's still purging is just old stuff that's purging out. But what I want you to hear in this is that the time of doing a lot of work is complete. All of humanity has been updated. I'm going to go into what that means in a day, the next day or two. That today's just really setting the stage for what we're talking about here, these puzzle pieces. Your puzzle in consciousness is now fully aligned and filled in with all of the updated files, and your puzzle for you and your divine path is complete. If you can trust that and keep moving forward, what has to happen now is these corrupted files have to play out. They have to purge. You know how when you empty sometimes if you keep putting stuff in your trash bin, and you finally go to empty the bin and it takes some time, like it's like downloading, or emptying your bin, and it takes a while. That's what's happening right now. So, what you have already faced in the purge, so to speak, is as bad as it's going to get. Okay? That's good news, because that means you've gotten here and you have handled things, and it may have been really hard at times, and it may have sucked at times, and you might be done, but let me just tell you that you are done. And it's just a matter of letting the old stuff continue to be pulled out. This is on the macro. Now span out into that was the micro. Span out to the macro. As the collective, you are going to continue to see purging and purging. And what happens when darkness is having to be purged? It's painful, right? So the darkness that has corrupted organizations and countries and systems, health systems, government systems, that's going to get real. We're going to see it get ugly. However, we have to know that it's getting ugly because it's the last of the purge. I don't know how long this can take. It has taken thousands and thousands of years to get to the point where it has gotten so obviously corrupted. It's not going to take thousands and thousands and thousands of years for it to purge out, because we've had so much going on behind the scenes that has been taking place in our favor that we couldn't see. All we can see is the darkness, right? And we're like, holy crap, it's everywhere. But behind the scenes, there's this light beaming in between us, and the darkness is here. And that light has just been firing and firing and firing behind the scenes. And this is just starting to crumble, and it's going to get louder before it completely crumbles. So anything that you see in your countries, anything that you see on the news, I mean, forget the news, but like what you see unfold here is a last ditch effort for that darkness, for that ego, the fragmented ego personality of a corporation or a government or a health system or of you. It's going to freak the hell out before it finally dies, before it finally just goes away and dismantles. Okay? A narcissist will always scream and fight the loudest right before they go quiet. A narcissist is fueled by fear. We all have our own inner narcissist, and that is the ego. The ego does not want to be wrong. The ego wants to be right. The ego does not want to be proven wrong. The ego doesn't want to go away. The ego wants its manufactured power, but the ego has been as a fragmented part of your soul that was genetically brought into you from generations prior to you, which has all been cleansing. You have been cleansing those generational parts, those generational traumas, those generational old paradigms, and anything else that you you, sweet soul, accepted for yourself, any thoughts, behaviors, beliefs, all of that is part of your fragmented ego personality. And that part of you is going to scream loudest as it finally goes away, because it has to. It's already, it knows it's getting quieter and quieter. It's not going to go fully away. We still need part of the ego, but it has to know that it is fully um, in second place to our soul frequency. Okay. And that's also happening in the collective as well, in the macro. Okay. Everything that was built on um, these negative frequencies, these negative fragmented egoic frequencies, these corrupted files are just going to scream really, really loud. So do not be afraid. This is the final purge. Okay. Um, yeah, we are moving completely unimpeded at this point. And even though we haven't manifested and see it fully in manifest form, it's happening. It's happening. Trust that. Please just trust that. That is the biggest message for today. And I'm going to keep giving you more and more information as evidence to all of this today, of this message today, in the next 3 days. So come back here every day so that we can go back and come back to this message. And I'm going to keep giving you more and more evidence to build your trust that this is what's happening. And I'm going to give you practical evidence for that. Okay. So that you can trust that you just keep moving forward now, because everything that is coming into place now is all of these new puzzle pieces that are aligning perfectly, and they are healthy puzzle pieces that you put back into your puzzle from the corrupted files that were purged out. And at the end of this, you are then on your beautiful divine path as of now. Sounds too good to be true, right? But I'm going to give you evidence as to why that is. The sun's going down, so now my light is fading. But my light is not fading, though. My light is still shining bright. Just to make sure I have everything I wanted to say. Yes, 4 parts. Okay, let's see what you guys have to say. Isabel from Quebec, 32, but the sun is bright. Nice. Freezing. Hello from California. I found you a couple of weeks ago and you are amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Beton? I'm not sure how to say your name. You have a name like mine where people are like, is it Vidat? Is it Vidat? But it's a beautiful name nonetheless. Okay, good. So no questions on here. So I want to just make sure you all come back here this week, okay? Come back, or at the very least, watch the recordings, because I gave you a lot. And I know there's a lot in your ego that's probably saying, man, this girl's going to say, like, my work is done. And we are moving into a completely different phase of life, right? We're ascending up into those higher levels of frequency. So yes, life is going to keep getting better. We just have to watch, like, from an observer place, just watch all of those corrupted files be cleansed and cleared from all of the situations. And what's happening is, behind the scenes, the people that are in charge, the corrupted people that are in charge, we're going to watch as they reveal themselves. They reveal themselves. Again, I don't know how long this is going to take, but if we just know there is nothing now that can impede our movement forward to the 4th and the 5th dimensional realities that are taking place, that are being created, then we can just watch without fear as all of this takes place, and just watch it unfold and be like, whoa, this is so interesting. Didn't see that coming. Or for many of us, we're gonna be like, finally, I felt that. I saw that coming years ago. And finally, now we're watching it unfold. So this is going to be a really interesting year for us to watch. And when we watch from that higher level, we can see the whole macrocosm kind of like unfolding, but we're going to be focusing on our own microcosm to stay in balance and stay grounded with our own divine puzzle. We're just going to work on our own puzzle and allow these corrupted pieces to keep shedding out, knowing that they're having to be removed, and it's not going to be as painful. It's only going to be painful if you allow it to be painful. If you know from a higher level that the purging that is taking place is in our highest and best, best good, to remove all of that those corrupted files, those corrupted pieces of the puzzle out, then we know that we've got space there for something to go in there that is in our divine plan that we left behind long ago by adopting these corrupted puzzle pieces, and we place them there. So allow them to be removed so that they can be replaced by the proper and the divinely aligned puzzle piece. That's how this is going to be unfolding. Okay. Thank you so much. This is 100% on point for me. Feels like it happened overnight, right? Yeah, it really does. It really does. Because if you look at months ago, there's like fear of like, oh my God, what is going on in the world? What's going on in my world? And slowly, all of a sudden, people are waking up. And that's what we're going to be talking about, Kristen, actually, in the next couple of days. I'm going to be, again, giving you evidence of this stuff. So covering why that is, why all of a sudden it feels like things are happening and shifting overnight, because they are in consciousness because of what's happening behind the scenes. Does anyone else feel exhausted and barely able to be around anyone? Yes, that is extremely common. And part of this process of that we have been in raising in consciousness, part of that process is the hermit phase, where we have to hermit in and be with ourselves so that we can just sit and do the work. One of the things to remember with I'm trying to think how to go. I'm trying to think of an example. One of the best ways to raise in consciousness is to completely close the door or close the access to yourself energetically to anyone around you. And this is a really hard thing. And I'm going to just give you an example of how I did this in my own life, simply so I can give real world examples. In 2020 was when my husband and I decided, if life's gonna, like, our life looked really good and it was healthy in a lot of ways, but it was so much work to maintain. And so we started to say, well, if this is how it is, like, why don't we just go and do it the way that we really want to do it? And that's when we started to, kind of dismantle and purge all of the corrupted files from our life that were stressing us out, right? And we started to explain this to people. I explained it to family, and he explained it to family and friends, and I explained it to my, ex-husband, who I have to co-parent with. And the backlash that was received, and all of the voices that tried to corrupt our puzzle I churned in that space for months, and it was painful because I can't get these people to understand it. They can't hear me, and I don't understand why they don't see what we're doing, and why are we being labeled irresponsible and unstable for giving up this life that was so good to go for what this is, and what we're working on now. It got to a point where it was so painful that I finally shut off communication altogether, because it just got to the point where I realized, like, no one's going to understand my own path. I've got to shut it down. And I went into hermit mode and have been there for about a year and a half now. I don't tell anybody what we're doing, where we're doing it, how we're doing it. I'm just here. And it was a magical, magical thing to put that final boundary up. But in order to put a boundary up, I also had to put the boundary up with people that I love, because when we go quiet and we go within and we start putting, messing with our puzzle pieces and getting them organized and looking at all the puzzle pieces, saying, I have to get rid of that and that and that, making a little corner here of all the stuff that had to be purged, and saying, I want to keep this, I want to keep this, I want to keep this, and there's organization that goes on in consciousness when you're in that hermit phase. But occasionally you go out in the world and you invite somebody in and you tell them what you're doing, and you hear something, you can't be around people, or you open the door to the news and you hear what's going on in the news, you're like, shut that door. I don't watch the news ever. I haven't for years. But you open up social media and you see something. So I started purging in my social media feeds, like, all the people that I stopped my ego from saying, well, yeah, but you've been friends with them for 20 years. And so what if they keep posting the same things and all the judgmental things that they're, no, defriend. Finally, Facebook, I got hacked in Facebook and my Facebook account went away. It was the biggest gift I ever got. I was like, now that it's gone, I'm not getting back on there. Instagram, I started taking things off that was just, I felt was, giving me ajna, anxious, anxiety. And when I open my feed, it's only things that are in alignment with what I believe and what are my truth. This is not burying your heads. This is sitting and making and creating the world that you want to live in from a microcosmic kind of perspective. So that hermit phase is extremely important to start to operate from where you want to and shut everybody out that wants to give you advice on your life. They have no say. That is allowing either someone else's generational and or learned conditioned corruption to come into you and corrupt your space. So you are not alone, Kristen, and it's the biggest favor we can give ourselves by putting that final boundary up and being like really, really disciplined about it. Really, that's how I flew up in consciousness, flew up because I finally turned everybody out. And if someone says you're co-parenting with someone and you have to keep communication going with the co-parent, no, you don't. There's a way to do it, and you just decide not to do it, but you have to let go of a lot, which ends up being control. I realized all the different places where I was corrupted was all the different places I was trying to control. And it looked a lot like loving my kids so much, but it ended up being trying to control their lives and telling them how to live their life in the healthiest way. It was all a form of control. And when I let go of control, I then started to just rise up in frequency and started seeing things so much bigger than I had ever seen it before. And I had to let go of how I wanted it to look, and I had to let go of how I wanted it to feel. And I had to let go of a lot of corrupt files through grief and sadness. And yet the higher picture is right there, because I had to just keep moving towards the higher picture, because in that divine plan, we are all together, and it is in a healthy form. But there's a lot of stuff in the middle that has to be moving around. So there's still a lot of things happening behind the scenes, energetically and in consciousness, for my divine plan to manifest in physical form, which I'm going to share with you throughout this year is happening. I have no doubts now. But it took a lot of painful letting go and being like, okay, I'll come back. I'm going to come back to that. But right now I've got to let it all go, let go of all of control, and just keep that boundary up. I guess because they vibrate on another level, they do not understand us. Cleared out most everyone. Yeah, that's the big one. It's a big realization that when you start clearing out people and just putting that boundary up, how many people disappear. And it does not, a lot of them weren't like a big old dramatic goodbye. A lot of them weren't a goodbye. It was just silent. All of a sudden they were gone. When that boundary went up, there was no one knocking on the door being like, where are you? I miss you. And, people were just silent. And there was a lot of grief there, because I realized how many friends I was hanging on to and thinking that, that it was something more than it was. But as I started to rise up, the vibrational resonance just isn't there, and they're vibrating in their own way, and I'm vibrating mine, and we went out of resonance. It's happening all over the place, because those who are not meant to be in our lives are being cleared out. And those, it doesn't mean that those people are corrupted. It just means that it's out of resonance. But now we've got space to pull in these new contracts, these new soul contracts, these new friends, new soul family. That's all being done and organized in consciousness, in energetics, so that once we are freaking done with the corrupted files, we can start pulling them in. And we're already starting to pull that in now. You'll notice more and more things happening for your favor and manifesting, because that is the time that we're in now. That is the time we're in now, as long as you are good with letting go of all of the shedding and the purging that's still going to take place, knowing it is in your full and your full favor, and allowing any fear around it to just simply melt away and not stop yourself from moving forward because fear is there. Fear is there. It's a corrupted file of some sort. If you're feeling fear, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling, look at where that corrupted file is and go right to it so you can pull it out. Okay. Subtle, yes. Thanks for that, Chris, for sharing this. Thought I'm a bit odd. No, we're all odd. We have been oddballs our entire life. For most of us, we didn't know it. We're lonely in our oddballness and being weird and not understanding the world, not fitting in, not feeling as if like we would ever be seen. But this is our time. The tides are changing now, right? The tides are changing. The energies are changing towards a more energetic resonance, and we are rising up so that the flow of the frequency is more in our favor. Now we are going to be, we're going to be more of the collective, because mass consciousness, critical mass has been reached in consciousness of awakened beings now. So we are now going to be the ones manifesting the new reality coming out, as the old reality just continues to be dismantled, as it has to be, right? If we have an old dismantled, like old, rickety house, it has to be dismantled before you can rebuild on top of it. That's what's happening to our systems. That's what's happening around. And, there's a lot of dust and there's a lot of loud noises when you're ripping down a house. It's messy, it's yucky, and, some things fall differently than you think it's going to fall. And it could be a little bit dangerous at times. That's what's going to be happening in your world, as well as in the global world. So we just got to let that thing fall where it's going to fall. And in the meantime, we keep working on the consciousness piece, because that is so important right now. It has been important, and it has been the catalyst. Everything that you all have done has been the catalyst to get us here, which I'm going to go further into in the next couple of days. I'm going to stop now because I can feel my energy. And my sentences are getting harder to put together, and I'm running out of light. However, stick with me on this. There's going to be more juicy nuggets for you to tune into throughout this week along this topic. Again, I'm going to give you evidence. I'm going to give you data so you understand and you have faith. Your ego can hear logical data to be like, okay, I get that. So then it will be more of a willing partner and allowing you to move forward without all of the fear and anxiety of what you might see in events that will be unfolding for the dismantling of things in your life, as well as in the global collective as well. Yeah, Karen, the dismantling has been painful. Working on manifesting the new. Yeah, the dismantling is painful, and my hope by the end of this week that you will see that this isn't to diminish anything, but I'm hoping by the end of the week you'll see that the dismantling doesn't have to be painful anymore. From here on out, it doesn't. And I know it, like, it's so, your ego's like, what? But this is happening and this is happening. And yes, it is, and it does happen. And when you understand from a higher level perspective of how this is all, all the pieces are coming together, I'm hoping it will make things a little less painful for you and for all of us. Don't forget that if you are taking value from these daily tune-ins, you can buy a girl coffee or a hot chocolate, whatever you'd like, from the link at the top of the chat here at buymeacoffee.com. It's just like a little virtual tip jar, but it really does make a difference in helping me kind of see that I'm seen and heard, and also just to support the platform, quite frankly. I don't always get the coffee, but it is to support the platform, the websites, and the email lists. And if you want to get these delivered into your email, you can either DM me your email address or go to VadetteMayer.com and sign up for the email list. I send these out every day, the link to these daily tune-ins. So if you can't be on live, you can at least get the recording in your inbox. Thanks all for being here. I will see you all tomorrow, and we're going to keep digging down even further and go down, 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 down into the depths of what all of these puzzle pieces are looking like. So I look forward to seeing you then. Talk to you tomorrow. Mwah. Bye. Oh, yeah.